We've had a number of companies now that have copied our label, ingredient for ingredient, same ratios, everything. So they've covered the combination and they've covered the balance, but they don't work near as good, like not half as good. Like, and that's not an understatement either. And so the next part of this is that if you have the right combination, right balance, it won't do you any good if you're not able to absorb it. And that's where the proprietary technology comes in that we've developed over the quite a few years to get it to the point that you are absorbing those minerals at a very high rate and that they're in the right form so that your body recognizes them as natural so they can actually do what they need to do.
So what is different about yours, and why is it actually working to help heal my brain? And I have a son who was diagnosed with ADHD. He takes it and he doesn't have symptoms as long as he's taking the treatment. I have a daughter who we haven't actually had her diagnosed, but she started displaying the same symptoms that I had. And so instead of taking her to a doctor, I just put her on the treatment and it resolved almost immediately because she'd never been medicated. So what's different about this treatment?
So what's different about it? I mean, there's three main points when we're producing the product that we're focusing on. The first thing was combination of ingredients. You take 36 ingredients and you throw them together. You hope for the best, but it's not so simple, right? There are some versions of vitamins and minerals that don't work so well together. And so that's the first thing, is making sure that the combination actually works well together. And then the second thing is then making sure that the minerals are in the proper balance. And that mainly includes the calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, and then copper and zinc. And so, especially with immune health being at the forefront of people's concerns, the last 3 years here, a lot of people will resort to high levels of zinc. And that's a good thing in relation to the immune system. But the problem is, or the downside to it is that when you throw off the balance of copper and zinc by doing too much zinc, you can actually create agitation and anxiety. And if it gets bad enough, you can actually go into a state of psychosis, which is a little more rare, obviously. But so the interesting thing is that even though people are addressing their immune health concerns, oftentimes they're actually assisting in creating an imbalance in the body that may be resulting in being a little more testy or a little more agitated, short with people, that type of thing. And so it's important to keep those balances together. So now those are the first two elements, the right combination and the right balance, so that you actually produce healing rather than creating harm in the body. But there's an interesting scenario here because we've had a number of companies now that have copied our label, ingredient for ingredient, same ratios, everything. So they've covered the combination and they've covered the balance, but they don't work near as good, like not half as good. Like, and that's not an understatement either. And so the next part of this is that if you have the right combination, right balance, it won't do you any good if you're not able to absorb it. And that's where the proprietary technology comes in that we've developed over quite a few years to get it to the point that you are absorbing those minerals at a very high rate and that they're in the right form so that your body recognizes them as natural so they can actually do what they need to do. And so that is so crucial. And using our own generations of EMPowerPlus as an example, when we first launched it in 1998, we had that combination, the balance. We haven't changed the formula. It's still the same from 1998. And what we were doing back then to make the minerals bioavailable was we were chelating them, which at that point in time was a bit of a novel approach. Not many supplements were coming out with chelated minerals. And so we were chelating them. But the thing is that for people to get well from a severe mental health condition and to get well quickly, they had to take up to 48 capsules per day, right? So back in 1998, I bet that's a high quality multivitamin by today's standards, what we were bringing out then. And so what we started doing, we changed the chelating agent, which increased the bioavailability of the minerals, and did that in the year 2000. And that brought down to 32 capsules per day. So we went from 48 down to 32. Great improvement, but that's still, half a meal in itself of capsules throughout the day. So in 2001, we began to micronize minerals and then chelate them. So now the minerals are being pulverized into very, very fine particle size so that the body can absorb them better. And it actually takes place in nature under ideal conditions. You see in the soil will take place in healthy soil that has not been sprayed by all of these synthetic chemicals from big agriculture. You'll end up with a lot of fungi and bacteria cultures in the soil that help to break down the minerals and convert them into an organic form that the plants can then uptake. But there's also species of worms. And some of these species of worms have a small gizzard, kind of like a chicken, where they'll actually grind things. Like a chicken will take a rock and they'll sit there and grind it, and they'll actually, get some fine particles from that rock, from that gizzard. Well, there's, on a much smaller scale, these worms will actually grind up the soil. And many people will actually use what's called worm castings as garden food, right? As fertilizer, where they'll introduce these worms, they go through the soil and they change the soil. You can see where they've been and you can see where they're going, because it's a stark contrast as to the texture and even the color of the soil. It'll actually change. And so these worms will do that. They'll micronize the nutrition, the minerals, so that now the bacteria there's more surface area, there's more, a lot more to go around in that sense of the bacteria, and fungi can break it down, convert it, and then the plants uptake that. So really what we were doing is mimicking what was taking place in nature. And as time went on, we improved the micronization process. We developed our own proprietary chelation technology that nobody else in the industry was using, and got it to the point now that basically 6 capsules of the EMPowerPlus today will do what 48 capsules did back in 1998, even though it's the same ingredients and the same balance. It's just that the bioavailability, the ability for the body to break it down, to absorb it and assimilate it into the bloodstream, is increased so much that now that little amount of those 36 ingredients in the 6 capsules will produce therapeutic results.